All right, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wanted to make a video here talking about the Chiefs game from this past week. So there's a lot of talk on across the social media platforms and across the NFL in general, experts and whatnot. I was just watching a clip from the Rich Eisen show about how he was ranting on for 10 minutes about the touchback rule. And if you're not familiar with Rich Eisen's a former ESPN personality who, and he's a good dude. He's very logical in his responses to things, and he's been very consistent over the years about how he doesn't like the rule where if the offensive team fumbles the ball and it goes into the end zone and then out of the end zone, that it's a touchback for the defensive team. He doesn't like that rule, and I know a lot of people don't like it because they seem to think it unfairly punishes the offense. So we're going to get to that. So there's four storylines here that I want to talk about in response to this first quick. So the first thing I want to talk about is the thing that's on everyone's mind in Kansas City. As you can see, I'm a Chiefs fan. Um, is the Patrick Mahomes injury. So the most recent things that they're talking about is how it looked like it was more of a pinched nerve, that he actually probably doesn't have a concussion. And this is interesting because during when the play happened, even and then they showed the replay, I was sitting there and watching the game, and I was like, he didn't even hit his head. It doesn't look like he um, you know is has suffered a concussion. But then I'm watching on TV. I'm not there. I don't exactly know what happened. Um, but it looks like it was like more of a like a pinched nerve, like a compressed artery type thing, where it caused him to stumble and possibly black out for a minute, um, which is, it's kind of like the whole Star Trek, the Vulcan death grip thing, something like that. So we'll see if Patrick Mahomes is able to get back on the practice field and play this week if he's cleared to play. But if he, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor or a medical expert, but in my opinion, if he didn't suffer a concussion, I would think he would be ready to go for Sunday's game. It looked like, I mean, he ran off the field. I mean, he didn't just walk out; he ran off the field under his own power. Coach Andy Reid said that he would have been able to come back in the game from the way he was feeling on Sunday. So that obviously leads to the question of, well, why didn't he? But that's a whole other discussion. Um, so that's the first thing I wanted to address real quick. The second thing is let's talk about this. Let's talk about that play that happened in the second quarter. So it was a bang bang play, and I think it was Higgins, the wide receiver for Cleveland, and he took the ball, he took the pass, and was diving for the end zone. Or he launched to dive himself. Daniel Sorensen launched to dive himself to try to knock him out of bounds before he got to the end zone, and they collided. Um, Now, what a lot of the people are talking about is how it was helmet to helmet contact, and they say that the helmet to helmet contact is what initiated the fumble. Um, I I don't know if you can definitively say that. It was helmet to helmet contact, absolutely. Um, both players put their heads down, and they both initiated contact to each other by putting their heads down. One of the things that I've always found inconsistent in football is why is the defensive player seems to be more punished when it comes to putting their head down versus when the offensive player does. And that's not just because I'm a Chiefs fan and it happened, and worked in the Chiefs' favor. This is something I've always looked at it, as when any like running back or whatever puts his head down and leads with the crown of his helmet. Why is that deemed okay? But it's not okay for the defensive player to do that. They say it's because of player safety, but can they really say that? And can they really use the term player safety when it's not when it seems to me like they're not taking it into consideration the player safety of the running back if he puts his head down, because they say they do it for the defensive players so the defensive player doesn't get hurt. So likewise, why would it not be okay for the running back to do that? So that's a football play. It's a bang bang play. I think there's a reason why it's not reviewable in the NFL. So let's stick something else. There is no targeting penalty in the NFL. There is targeting in college football, and I think a lot of people are fans of both sports. Um, Targeting is a penalty in college football, and it is reviewable. And you ask the average college football fan how they feel about the targeting rule and how it's reviewable, most will say that it's complete garbage. Okay, it's not complete garbage when it works in your favor. And see, this is where we need to draw the lines between being a fan and then being maybe a fan of the sport in general, and being able to see what's rational and what's not. Football is a violent game, and if we're going to allow it to be played, we have to assume some of the risk that comes along with it. Um, so in the NFL, there is no targeting rule. Now there is penalties for helmet-to-helmet contact, and the referee, but they have to see that in real time, and they have to call it in real time. They have to determine that it was a penalty. Um, they obviously did not call it on that play with Sorensen and Higgins. And I think if you do open up the can of worms to being able to review helmet-to-helmet contact, you could probably call it on 75% of every single play that happens in every game. Is that what we want? Do we want three-fourths of our game to come down to 15-yard penalties every, 3 out of every 4 snaps? I mean, some people say, well, we have to draw the line somewhere. We have to make some exception for, defenseless receivers. Well, Higgins wasn't a defenseless receiver. And he had left his feet and he was diving head first. He was not giving himself up. He wasn't defenseless. And Sorensen was trying to make a play to knock the guy out of bounds. Um, if anyone really sits there and thinks, oh, he was head hunting, he was going for his head, no, he wasn't. Okay, that's not. Let's not let's not just present alternative facts. That's not what happened. Um, should a penalty have been called? Well, by the letter of the law, in terms of the rule book, it probably should have been, but it wasn't. And to my point, as I was making, it's really difficult, to sit here and say when should it be called, when should it not be called. I definitely don't think it should be reviewable play. I think I think it opens up way too many cans of worms and way too many potential scenarios for it not to be abused, but just to, you want to talk about pace of play. People talk about pace of play all the time. If we want to turn the game into a 4.5 hour, 5 hour game like they have in college football to me is unwatchable anymore. I don't watch college football anymore. I haven't for several years because the games take way too long to play. Um, and part of it is the amount of reviews that there are, the fact that the clock stops after every first down. That's a whole other discussion. So anyway, so helmet to helmet, did they get screwed on that? I don't know. If I was a Browns fan, I would probably be chirping about it today, or at least maybe 5 years ago I'd have been chirping about it. But when plays happen against my team now, I tend to take more of the high road approach. Like I understand where the other side's coming from, and on this, I understand where the Browns are coming from. Um, but I think if I was a Browns fan, I would probably still have the same viewpoint that I'm putting forth now. Um, so that led to the ball being fumbled out of the end zone and it being a touchback for the Chiefs. Now there seems to be uh, thread, um, some discussion going across social media that this isn't a fair rule. Okay, well, and then some people are like blaming the referees for this rule, or the NFL. There's like this conspiracy, to give the Chiefs the win. And first of all, the rule has been like this for decades, maybe since they started the football. I don't know when this rule was put in place. What I do know is that it was click that over there. What I do know that it's been in place for as long as I've been a fan of the game, since I started following football in 1989 when I was 10 years old. And it's been a rule ever since then. So at the very least, it's been a rule for the last 32 years, and or 31 years. But yeah, so it. The arguments are that if the ball is fumbled in the field of play and it goes out of bounds, the offense gets the ball where it goes out of bounds. If the defensive team didn't recover it, but in the end zone, if it goes out of the end zone, it goes to the defensive team. So they say, well, just move it back to where the ball was fumbled, or move back to the 1 yard line, and or give a penalty, put it back to the 10 yard line or the 20 yard line. And there's so many different things you open up so many different doors of avenues of what could happen or potentially should happen. Um, I think I tend to go with the simplistic approach to most things, and I tend to lean more towards um, don't fumble the football. Okay, diving for the pylon is an incredibly high risk, high reward situation. Now, when you have already established that you have control of the ball in the field of play, like because you've caught the ball in play and you've established 2 feet, you've made a football move, or you're a running back and you've taken the ball and you're already in the field of play. Um, all the ball has to do is to break that little that very front end of the goal line is all it needs. It just needs a touchdown. And it's considered a touchdown, and the play is immediately over. Doesn't matter what happens after that. And if you fumble before that, then then obviously the ball is live, and what happens to it happens to it. If it goes out within the end zone, it's a touchback. If it goes out before the pylon, it remains the offensive team's ball. I don't know how you would change this rule. Um, People say that it gives an unfair advantage to the defense. In my opinion, the defense is already extremely has so many rules against them, and the offense has so many advantages, in order to move the ball down the field and to take advantage of what the defense can and can't do. Um, to me, this is maybe one of those balancing things. Now, the argument that when it goes out of bounds in the field of play, the offense gets the ball where it is, or maybe where it was fumbled, because I don't think they can fumble the ball forward. Um, but if it goes out in the end zone, I mean, it goes out not in the field of play. The end zone is not in the field of play. The end zone is a scoring zone, and it is treated differently than the goal line to goal line. That 100 yards is treated differently in terms of the field of play than the 10-yard end zones on each end of the field. And I think that might be part of the rationale as to why they do have this rule the way it is. An old Kansas City uh, radio sportscaster here in town who's been mostly disgraced anymore. His name is Kevin Keatsman. And I'm not a Kevin Keatsman fan by any means, but I used to listen to a show, back in the day. And one of the things he always talked about this play about diving for the pylon. And he was always one of these people who said it's just not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk of diving to the pylon and having potentially the ball being fumbled and you losing the ball before it breaks the plane and then losing the entire possession. Because not only do you lose potentially a touchdown, but you lose the possession as well. And if you're at the 1 yard line, you're if you don't get a touchdown, at the very least you're going to get a field goal. Unless you're Harrison Butker and can't kick extra points. You can kick 50-yard field goals, but you can't kick extra points apparently. That's another issue. Um, I think it's something where the I don't think there needs to be something to be changed here. I mean, how many times a year does this happen? Once or twice? But because it happened to an underdog team in the playoffs, now suddenly it's a big issue, and everyone's got to offer a hot take on it. People like Rich Eisen, and I respect Rich Eisen immensely. Um, Rich has been very consistent for the years, not just from this past weekend, but he's been on this. He's been harping on this for a long time, um, and he's been consistent. Whether it helps his teams or hurts his teams. I do remember a play like when this happened against the Chiefs one time. I don't remember when it was. It was quite a few years ago. It was, I think it was even before I was even on Facebook or anything. But there were several different, sports fan forums I'm still a part of, Chiefs and Missouri Tigers and whatnot. I do remember a play like this happening where it negatively hurt the Chiefs, or maybe it was or maybe it was Mizzou. I know it was one of the two teams I rooted for at the time. And I remember going crazy. I remember thinking, this is a terrible rule. Why just give the ball at the 1 yard line, or it should go back to where it was fumbled. And now, admittedly, I was being biased because it hurt my team. And but 2 days ago it helped my team. So where do I stand on it? I think the rule should stand as it is. Honestly, I think it opens up way too many possible ways to take advantage of a situation. So there was one thing I was listening yesterday on the radio. They were talking about, well, what if you move the ball back to the 20-yard line? I mean, that's a huge deterrent. I mean, you lose 20% of the field of play, and the down counts. But now you move back. Well, maybe the result play counts, so it's probably like 1st and 10 from the 20, or maybe it's 1st and goal from the 20. I don't know. Maybe it's something like that. But let's say that happens. Let's say there's like 3.5 minutes left in the game, and you're up by the game is tied, or you're up by one or something like that. You're up by less than a field goal. Um, so you're up by 1 or 2 points, or you're up by 3 points, something like that. And you know the other team doesn't have any timeouts left, and you're about to score. And of course, the other team wants you to score as quickly as possible so they can get the ball back and score, and then try to get the ball back on an onside kick. You know how it all goes. But what happens if the offensive team, say you change the rule and the ball goes back to the 20-yard line? What if the other team decides to purposefully fumble the ball out of the end zone? And now the ball's moved back. Now you have 20 extra yards to mess around with, and you can run more time. You can run more clock off. You have more opportunity. You have potentially up to 8 more downs to kill the clock. You could effectively kill that. So that's a situation now. Granted, people's like, "Oh, that wouldn't happen very often." Well, how often does this play happen anyway? Within the flow of the game. And I could see someone like Bill Belichick, who's always looking for a little tiny angle to take advantage of. I could see him taking advantage of that and like exploiting this rule for what it is. And I just, I think it just opens up too many possibilities of things going poorly, I guess. So I think the rules should stay the same. I really do. I don't think there's an equitable and fair way to change it. I feel for the Browns fans, for what that franchise has had to endure, the various drives against the Broncos. Hey, you guys aren't the only ones that have been penalized by the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos broke our hearts many times as Chiefs fans. So and John Elway is, oh man, we're right there with you, Cleveland fans. We really are, and it's one of those things where we have some shared experiences. So we understand the struggles that you're going through, and we understand that you think it was unfair what happened yesterday. So or on Sunday, but we get it. As a Chiefs fan, I do empathize with you because I understand what you're going through because we've gone through it as well. Um, so the last thing I want to talk about is this hypothetical situation that I keep seeing people talk about. So there's 2 points to it. First, they talk about that play being a 10-point swing. Okay, first of all, it's not a 10-point swing. Okay, if that play is a touchdown, if he doesn't lose possession of the ball and he dives and he breaks the plane, because he was going to break the plane if he didn't lose the ball, and that would have been a touchdown. If that plays a touchdown, the Chiefs, and then obviously they kick the extra point, and then the Browns kick off. Every kickoff the Browns had on Sunday was a touchback. So we have to assume that kickoff would have been a touchback too. Which is not a hard assumption to make. So let's say the ball is kicked off. Okay, the time the Chiefs got the ball back from the fumble and the time that they would have got off from the kickoff is the exact same time. No game clock would have passed. So the Chiefs get the ball on the 25-yard line regardless on both situations. Actually, I think on the fumble they got it on the 20, which I think touchbacks were on the 25. Anyway, regardless. So anyway, they get the ball back on the 25 anyway on the kickoff. No time is different. They're going to go and get a field goal anyway. That fumble did not give the Chiefs 3 points. All the fumble did was allow the Browns to not score a touchdown. Whoa, what are we doing here? There we go. Screen went blank. All it did was give the Browns the ability to not get 7 points of their own, or 6 points or 8 points, whatever. We'll just say 7 points. It's pretty standard. Um, so what do the Chiefs? Do the Chiefs still go down and get a field goal? Well, of course they do. Before the end of the half. They're going to probably run the same plays. You don't exactly know if things are going to work out the exact same way, which is getting to my second point here. But let's finish this thread first. They're going to get the ball. They're going to drive down. They're probably going to kick the field goal before the end of the half and get those 3 points. That's not a 10-point swing. Okay. If the Browns get the touchdown, the Chiefs still get the field goal. The Browns don't get the touchdown. The Chiefs get the field goal. Um, let me let me see here. I had this play up. What was the time? The Chiefs got the ball back at 1:34. Minute 34 seconds left on the 20-yard line. So they would have had a minute 34 seconds from the 25-yard line. That's what it would have been. Um, so I think that's going to be the exact same thing. I think that they're going to get a field goal regardless there. The Browns getting the touchdown or not getting a touchdown doesn't change the fact that the Chiefs went down in a minute and 30 seconds, got a field goal. The fumble had zero, 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 zero. It had zero impact on the Chiefs field goal. None. It had zero to do. Had nothing to do with it. So let's not revise history. Let's not come out here and say that there was a not a conspiracy, but that is a 10-point swing. First, there is no such thing as 10-point swings. Okay, uh, you can have a 14-point swing. Like if the ball had been, let's say the play happened exactly the way it was, and the ball's fumbled, and then Sorensen picks the ball up in the end zone before it goes out of bounds and runs it back for a touchdown. Okay, you could consider that a 14-point swing because then that play directly led to a touchdown the other way when you almost had a touchdown this way. So all it did was it just gave the Browns it didn't take points off the board, but it just very violently ended their opportunity to get 10 points or to get 7 points. Um, okay, so the second thing is I keep hearing all this talk about how that was the changing play. That was the deciding play of the game. That if they would have had, because since the Chiefs won by 5 points, that if that touchdown occurs, then the Browns and everything else goes the exact same way. The Browns win the game by 2 points because if everything else plays out the exact same way. All right, everybody take a deep breath here. Everything wouldn't have played out the same exact way. You know how I know that? Because game situations dictate different plays be called. Andy Reid, I don't think calls the same type of plays if he's leading by more or less, or if he's down. I think he plays the game differently. Heck, Patrick Mahomes they may not have run that speed option. They may not even been at the point to be third and short and run a speed option play on that third and short anyway, where he got knocked out of the game. Um, it is impossible to know what would have happened. Impossible. Um, so, I mean, even when I say how the Chiefs would have still drove down and got a field goal, it's possible that wouldn't have happened either after that if the Browns would have got that touchdown. But the game situation was right before the half. The Chiefs were going to drive. They're going to drive down anyway and try to get points before the end of the half, especially knowing that they didn't get the ball to start the third quarter. So they would have done everything in their power to try to drive down anyway. So that's why it's fairly easy to say the closer the drives are to the drive in question, you can pretty typically say, okay, we think that probably would have played out the same exact way. But the further you get away from it, the more that you have to. There's so many other questions that come up. And so, especially in this situation, there's so many questions that would have come up in terms of what would have happened the entire second half. I mean, that play happened in the second quarter, for goodness sakes. So the entire rest of the game would have played out the same exact way. Well, I'll play the Cleveland fans. I'll play their game for 1 minute here. Um, there was one guy who made a comment on Rich Eisen's video, and I responded to it. He said if he says if all things go the same way, the Browns would have been in the AFC Championship game. Okay, think about this for a second. Let's stop and use our brains. If all things would have gone the same exact way, well, first of all, we know that's not true. That's a flawed argument because Kansas City had the ball at the 2-minute warning at third and 14, and that's the 13.5-yard run by Chad Henne to make it fourth and inches up to the Kansas City 48-yard line. And so once that play was, and then he gets up, so they run the play. It's like a minute 44, minute 43. That's when the officials stopped the clock because they were trying to figure out where the ball was being spotted. They were trying to, I think they were also trying to see if they needed to review the play from the spot of the ball, but the clock stopped there. There was no timeout call, but the clock stopped while the officials were trying to gather what was happening. And it gave everybody kind of a chance to catch their breath in terms of the play. Um, but if that, let's say the Chiefs are down 2 points there, the same play happens. Now it's fourth and inches from the 47, 48-yard line. Once the officials wind the clock, the Chiefs don't run it down to a minute 14, a minute 13, and then snap the ball with 5 seconds left on the play clock to that 5 yard out to Tyreek Hill. No, they're going to go immediately. So let's say it's 138 to go when they snap when they or not 138 when they snap it. Let's say it's let's say it's 140 when the ball snapped, and it's 1:35 when the play is over. First of all, Tyreek Hill would have gone out of bounds. He wouldn't have gone down inbounds to keep the clock, but he would have gone out of bounds. Probably would have picked up more than 5 yards, but because I don't want to assume anything, we'll just say he just picked up the 5 yards, went out of bounds, got the first down. Now the ball's on the Cleveland 46-yard line. The Chiefs only need 10 more yards with a minute, we'll say a minute and 35 seconds left. They only need 10 more yards to legitimately have a shot to kick a game-winning field goal. And the Cleveland has no timeouts left. And the Chiefs have two. 10 yards. That's all they need is 10 yards. Now, Chad Henne threw a terrible interception in the game yesterday, but he also was responsible for multiple passes, passing first downs, and of course that big run. I have every confidence to believe the Chiefs would have got 10 yards. They probably would have got more than that. They would have gotten plenty close enough field goal range for Butker to kick a game-winning field goal. People say, "Oh, well, Butker missed an extra point and a field goal yesterday." Yeah, he also kicked the longest field goal in Chiefs playoff history, Arrowhead playoff history yesterday too. So there is that. So do we still want to sit here and say that all things go the same way, that the game would have ended the same exact way? No, because the Chiefs are down 2 points. They're not taking a knee, on the final two plays of the game to run the clock out. Guys, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. They're not killing the clock at the end. They're actually driving down. So the only thing we know from where the game stopped was after that fourth down play. The fourth down play wouldn't have been at a minute 14. It would have taken place at a minute 35. And the Chiefs would have got the first down. So they basically have a minute and a half to get 10 yards and kick a game-winning field goal. So Browns fans, I'm sorry. The Chiefs would have won the game anyway. Pretty certain of it. Now, granted, Butker could have missed the field goal. Chiefs could have turned the ball over, and Browns could have won. The bottom line is that if you're gonna sit here and say, well, if everything would have gone the same way, the Browns would have won, you cannot just assume those final 90 seconds just don't exist. The game does not stop with a minute 30 left in the clock. And the Chiefs have the ball in Browns territory, two timeouts with a minute 30 to go. I'm sorry, I don't think Cleveland has any shot to win there. The Chiefs take the ball all the way down. They wind the clock all the way down to make sure Cleveland doesn't even have a shot. If the Chiefs kick a field goal there, they go up by one. The Chiefs kick that ball with 2 seconds left. They manipulate the clock so it works in their favor. So anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on the game. We're going to be interested to see what happens with Patrick Mahomes this week. If it's my opinion, I'm not a doctor. I think he plays on Sunday against the Bills. I think if he plays, the Chiefs win, and I think they win fairly easily. The Chiefs have handled the Bills very easily this year. That um, Josh Allen he's a feast or famine type of. He's played incredibly well this year, MVP type caliber season. But against the only thing I go off of high pressure games. Patrick Mahomes ratchets it up in high pressure games, as we've seen that in the playoffs the past 3 years now with Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen has played in two playoff games, three playoff games, two. Yeah, because they lost to the Texans last year, and was one of the worst football games I've ever watched. I mean, neither one of those quarterbacks, Watson or Allen, they played horrendous football in that game. Um, you know, Josh Allen is has made a lot of strides this year, but I'm not ready to just anoint him and to crown him as the next great quarterback. Hey, let's put together a couple more seasons of this, and let's win some meaningful games in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, they won last week when their offense scored 10 points. Okay, let's. I mean, he was a non-factor. He was shut down by that defense, and the Chiefs defense shut him down earlier this year too. He had his worst game against the Chiefs defense in his home stadium. So if Chad Henne has to play the entire game, I think it's probably a much closer game. I think the Bills have a better chance, obviously, winning if Henne plays than Mahomes. I think Mahomes plays, the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, if Mahomes is healthy, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, in my opinion. You always, I suppose, if it's Rodgers and um, this stupid monitor, I hope if it's Rodgers and Mahomes, it probably will be a shootout. But um, yeah, I think I think the Chiefs are. Um, I think they can beat Buffalo with Chad Henne. I think it's going to be much tougher, but I don't think there's any chance Henne plays. I think it's pretty certain that Patrick Mahomes will play based on all the reports we're hearing the last couple days. So, but we'll have to wait and see later this week once the injury report comes out on Friday. So, thanks for watching this video. You guys have a nice day, and we'll talk to you later.